Hello, Challenger. We are here again in this weekly live that happens every Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time. And today we're going to be talking about working abroad. We're going to be talking about how to get your job internationally as a Java developer. So, if you don't know, I moved to Dublin 8 years ago and I came here as an English student, and then I got my job here and I got the critical skills visa. I didn't have European visa before coming to Dublin, and this is a path you can also take if you want, right? You can either relocate to the other country or you can work remotely. Whatever the path you prefer, we're going to be talking today. Okay? So, firstly, we're going to explore some countries that are a good choice to move and to relocate. We're going to be also discussing some opportunities where we can get a remote job from our countries. So, yeah, if you are kind of unsure if you're going to relocate or not, this talk will be very useful to you because you're going to be able to have a clearer view of what are the options. Okay? So let's talk first about global opportunities. So, what are the countries you can choose? So, those are probably the most famous countries that developers consider on moving to. So, let's start with Germany. So, in Germany, it's a great country for Java developers, and there are some options to move, to relocate to Germany. So there is this job seeker visa, which will let you stay for up to 6 months in Germany so that you can have enough time to look for a job. And it requires, obviously, like proof of fund. So you have to basically prove that you have money to stay there for 6 months. And you also have the visa for skilled worker visa. And to get this visa, you need to, be recognized in a vocational way, or you have to have academic qualifications. And if it's engineering, IT, so especially if you are highly skilled as a software engineer in IT. And there is also the option of the European Union Blue Card, which gives you to the European Union countries. And this visa is focused on highly skilled professionals with a university degree, and you have also to get a job that is above a certain threshold. So it's not that easy to get this visa, but let's explore very quickly how to get this visa. So you need a recognized university degree first, and you have to check on this Anabin database. You need also a concrete job offer or employment contract, and you need a certain salary to qualify for this blue card, which is approximately 45k euros a year. And you need also, so you need to find a job in Germany that will be approximately this 45k to 41k. And you need to prepare the documents like job contract. You have to have a passport with recent photo. And you also need a proof of health insurance. In most of the visas, you're going to need that. And if you are outside of the European Union, you can apply for a visa for employment. And you also can receive a residence permit, which is valid for up to 4 years. And after 33 months or 21 months with the B1 visa, you can apply for permanent residence. They also call that SPR. So there is also the study pathways. If you are younger and if you're not that experienced with Java, that might be the best option. And there is also the path to work. So after graduation, you can apply for an 18-month residence permit to search for a job. And you also have the option of the freelancer visa for self-employed professionals. And you have this one that's probably very difficult to get, which is the family reunification. So Basically, you have to have close family that live in Germany. Okay, so Germany is one option, and probably the most common way to get visa to Germany is the blue card. The Netherlands is an excellent country as well. I've been there a couple of times, and the infrastructure is amazing. They are very advanced in terms of technology. So they're definitely a worth it country. And like you don't have the huge problems we have here in Dublin, for example, with housing. To get a mortgage in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, cheaper than in Ireland. And the houses are also cheaper. You have a train that you can easily travel from one city to the other. So it's a really good country overall. And there are some ways to get there. And you can also get the blue card in the Netherlands. So basically, the first step is that you need a job with the Dutch employer, and the employer has to apply for the blue card for you. The documents are, employment contract, diploma, plus credential, recognition if required, passport, proof, and also the proof of health insurance. So yeah, basically we need to get a job that will give you the possibility to apply for this visa. And the minimum gross salary to apply for this visa is 63,000 euros a year. And obviously, every country will prefer highly skilled software engineers, right? And many employers will sponsor you to get the blue card as well. Sorry, they will sponsor you and you don't need the blue card actually. So if you want to be sponsored by a company in the Netherlands, you need a company that is registered in the IND registry. And, if you want to go this way, you have to have, like, if you are 30 years plus, you need a gross salary of at least 5,331 euros a month. And you can't have any criminal record, right? So, yeah, you need to find a job in the Netherlands. And you have to make sure that they are a recognized IND sponsor. Then they can sponsor you. And one way to get a job in the Netherlands or any country is by going to conferences. And sometimes, like those companies from those countries, they will be in a booth in this conference and you can talk to them and potentially you can get a job like from your country. And this happened many times, right? This happened with friends of mine in Brazil. They went to the developer conference and they went to the booth and they got a job. There was a friend of mine who got a job in Canada and another friend of mine, he got a job in the Netherlands. So if you're looking to relocate, going to conferences is a great way because, you do networking and you meet people from those booths and who knows, you might get a job from your country. It's a lot easier. Like I did the most difficult way to get a job abroad because I came to Ireland with a student visa, so I didn't even have a job here. There are many ways to get a job abroad, but you have to choose what works the best for you, obviously. And so if you are looking to move to the Netherlands, always, check if the employer is an IND recognized sponsor, and there is even a public list online. So you can also relocate to Canada, and on Canada, there are some options. So Canada is a country that they actually want immigrants because they lack high skilled workers. So there is this express entry, which is actually the best for senior and experienced developers. It's basically a point-based system. It's also called as CRS. And depending on the location, you need most of the states in Canada, you need only English. But if you are in Quebec, you need French as well. So I don't recommend going to Quebec. Otherwise, you're going to have to learn 2 languages. And you need to take the IELTS test. And you need to have your degree assessed via ECA. You need also to create an express entry profile. You need to wait for an invitation to apply and submit your permanent residence application. And for senior Java developers with 5 years plus with Java, and good English, bachelor's or master's, you're gonna have a high CRS score. So you have good chances to be approved and move to Canada. And for intermediate developers with 2 or 3 years of experience, you might need a job offer. So it's more difficult. There's also this way global talent stream. So those are for in-demand tech roles like software engineers, developers, and the employer applies for approval. And once approved, they will give you a work permit in 2 or 3 weeks, and you move quickly to Canada. And this is a great option, right? And this probably works very well if you find the employer in a conference and you get hired in this conference. Or maybe you can get hired like from your country of origin. I think, well, obviously this is more difficult, but it's also an option. And there is also this way, it's the provincial nominee programs. And basically you need this PNP nomination. And if you have someone nominating you, you get a lot of points on these SRC points. And if your express entry score is too low, you have also the option of going as a student. This is kind of the option I did in Ireland, but I didn't do masters here. Instead, I was studying English, but it's kind of what I did in Ireland. So basically, you go to Canada as a student and you get 3 years to find a job after graduation. So it's a lot of time, right? And you accumulate Canadian experience, then you can also apply for the express entry, right? Or, this option is one of the easiest. If you work for IBM, Amazon, or Accenture, or banks, possibly you can transfer internally. That's the best option, right? Because if the company transfers you, that's it. And usually the documentation you need is the IELTS general training. You need an updated resume in the Canadian format. Like your LinkedIn profile has to have those keywords, Java, Spring, microservices, cloud, Kafka. Proof of funds, you need to prove that you have at least 14 Canadian dollars, 14K Canadian dollars. And also having a good portfolio with code examples on GitHub helps, definitely. And what are the salaries in Canada? So it's roughly 70 to 95 Canadian dollars K a year. For senior, it's around 95 to 130K Canadian dollars. And the recommendations, so if you're a senior Java developer with age less than 35 years old and you have good English, express entry is the best. And if you're an intermediate developer, you can go through this Target Global Talent Stream job, or you can simply go there and do a master's degree or study there for a while. Okay, so let's continue. And for the US, let's see here the main ways to go to the US. So there is this common visa, which is the H-1B visa. And many mid-sized startups avoid this H-1B because, it's kind of a lottery uncertainty. It's for skilled workers in specialty occupations like software engineering, and it requires employer sponsorship, so you need to get a job first. And you get a valid 3 years visa, and it's renewable up to 6 years, and it could lead to the green card. And you can get that for large companies, Google, Amazon, or Meta. There is also this visa, O1, which is for extraordinary ability. And this is for top professionals. So doing open source contributions, if you have a patent, if you do conference speaking, publications, and you have high salaries, it's easier to get this visa, this O1 visa. And this is often used by senior developers with standout resumes, and this avoids H-1B randomness as well. So basically, if you stand out in some way, if you share knowledge, if you give talks, if you have open source contributions, you stand out, right? You become the top 5% of developer, and basically you have the global visa, right? So you can basically the countries, they will open doors for you. So there is this way, which is great, is that L1 visa, intra-company transfer. There's a friend of mine who got this visa. She got transferred from Brazil to Florida. And basically, you can do that. If you work for a multinational, you can ask them to transfer you to the US. And that works. That's very effective. Maybe it's one of the easiest ways, but you need to work in a multinational company. You can also get the F1 student visa. So you can do a master's degree in the US, and then you're going to have up to 3 years to find a job. And in this transition, when you get a job, you might get the green card as well. And you can also get the green card via employment, and obviously you need an employer who is willing to sponsor you, and this is faster than the EB2, and if you get this option, that's amazing. So for intermediate developers, it's very hard to get the O1 or the direct green card. So like for intermediate developers, it's better to do masters in the US. Then you can apply for the H1B, and you might land a multinational company in your country, and then you can transfer to the US. And for senior developers, it's better to get this O1 visa. And if you do contributions to open source, if you do publications, if you have a high salary, if you give talks, all of those things count a lot. There is also the H1B sponsorship for fund and large startups. And there's also this L1 transfer. So there are many ways. So basically, a practical preparation to go to the US is to build a strong resume in the American style, contribute to open source, do talks in conferences, do publications. It helps to get this O1 visa. Practice lead code assistant design to pass in interviews because they are tough. And network on LinkedIn, GitHub, and tech conferences. Remember, like going to tech conferences is very important. You're going to meet people, you're going to open your mind, and you might get a job because, like I said, the companies, they go to conferences, they take their booth, and it might be a matter of talking to them and saying, hey, I am this developer looking for. So I have those skills, and you can tell them that you can help them to solve their problems. Or you can also work for the UK. So let's see some of the ways you can get a visa. So there is this skilled work visa, most common. So you can get a job, and this job has to sponsor you. And the minimum salary to get this visa is 26k pounds. This visa is valid up to 5 years. And there is the Global Talent Visa. So it's aimed to leaders or potential leaders in the digital technology. You don't need a job offer. You need an endorsement from Tech Nation. And this is usually used by senior developers with strong open source leadership or innovation track record. And this is more flexible than skilled worker visa, right? And the intra-company transfer, this is basically you can do that any country. So basically you work for a company that could potentially transfer you to the UK, like could be banks, global consultancies, big techs, and they may relocate you to the UK and they might give you the visa. Or you can do also the masters, and you're gonna get a 2-year post-study work visa. So basically after you do your masters or your PhD or whatever the course you want, you're gonna have 2 years to look for a job. And so what are the strategies then? For intermediate developers, the easiest way is to get a skilled work visa via fintech or consultancy hiring. And if you are going to the UK on these CRS points, then you need to prove that you are a skilled worker. And a good stepping stone is to join a bank or consultancy graduate program, because then they will probably sponsor you. And for senior developers, option 1 is to get the skilled worker visa. So this is straightforward if you're working for a bank fintech. Option 2 is a global talent visa. So if you can show that you contribute to open source, and if you do, talks in conferences, or if you have some kind of strategic leadership, that will help you. Or you can do the intra-company transfer. So if you're working for a multinational company, they can potentially transfer you to the UK and you can get the visa. And notice that this type of visa can be acquired in almost every country I told you, right? So let's continue. And for Australia, you have the skilled independent visa. So like it's basically something similar that you have with the express entry from Canada. So it's a point-based system. And you also have the skilled nominated visa, or you can be sponsored by an employer as well. There is also the global talent visa. So, and like how can you get that? You can do publications if you have a book, if you have a patent, if you have contribution to open source. All of those things will help you to get this global talent visa. And it leads to a direct permanent residence quicker than the point-based visas. Or you can also take the traditional route of basically doing a master's, and then you have 2 to 4 years to look for a job, which is a lot of time. Right? And what are the strategies for Java developers? So for intermediate developers, the best bet is to do the skilled independent 189 PR via point system. Or you can also apply for an employer sponsored through enterprise government consulting firm. And for senior developers, you can get the global talent visa. And if you do open source contributions, if you do talks, and if you are working for Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, they will often sponsor you. The permanent residency in Australia is highly valuable. So after 4 years, you can apply for a citizenship. And to get a visa in Australia, you also need the IELTS test. And the sweet spot for the point-based application is if you have between 25 years to 32 years old, at least 5 years of experience as a Java developer and strong English. And in Ireland is the country I came. So let me show you. So Ireland wasn't a very good country until 20 years ago. What happened that Ireland became a very good country was that many countries from the US came here, and the business tax here in Ireland is the lowest in Europe. And that's why many companies from the US came here, and like the economy from Ireland just boomed, right? 20 years ago, it was a very poor country. Nowadays, it's one of the richest countries in Europe. You have all the big techs, you have Google, you have Meta, Oracle, you have all of them. And, it's a country that they pay very well for Java developers. And the good thing is that the official language here is English. So you don't need to learn any other language. If you were in Germany or in the Netherlands, you would have to learn the Dutch or German. But here, since the language is English, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so what are the paths? So first, let's talk about the salary. So the salary for Dublin for intermediate developers is between 55K to 75K euros a year. And for senior developers with 5 to 10 years of experience, you can get 80K to 110K. For tech lead, architect, or whatever, or other roles, you can get like 110K to 150K. And for senior developers, you can get 400 euros a day or 600 euros a day. And the cost of living here in Dublin is very high. So you have to keep that in mind. So the first kind of visa is a critical skill. And this is the visa I got. And this is the most attractive visa for Java developers. And like most of the developers who came here from abroad, they got this visa. So basically you need to be skilled, highly skilled. I recommend that you are at least a senior Java developer in your country, and then you get this visa. And you can come here as a student visa, and you can get the student visa, or you can do also a master's, right? So, and the minimum salary to get this visa is 38K, and you have to have, so basically after you work 2 years, then you're gonna have access to the stamp for residence permit, which enables you to change jobs. And after 5 years, you can get the Irish citizenship, which enables you to move to any country in the European Union. So it's a very strong visa, and it also gives you access to the UK. So because the UK and Ireland has a special agreement. And you also have the same way, so you can do this intra-company transfer. So you can, if you work for a multinational, you can transfer to Ireland if you want. You can do a master's degree and you can get the stamp 1 visa. And what are the best strategies? So if you are intermediate developer with 2 to 4 years of experience, the best entry is critical skills. So basically, if you get a salary of at least 38k euros a year, you are qualified for the critical skills employment permit. And that will enable you to stay in Ireland. And obviously, Ireland is very receptive to IT workers because they don't have enough IT workers, right? Because many companies from the US came here, they don't have enough qualified developers, and they're very receptive. And for senior developers with 5 years plus, you can negotiate packages well above 80k euros, and you can apply for stamp 4. And the key advantages of Ireland is that it's English speaking, so you don't need to learn a German or Dutch. You have EU mobility, so when you get stamp 4 or citizenship, it's easier to work across European Union. So since in Ireland is the lowest tax in the European Union, so it's 12.5% for business. So it attracts many companies here, and it's strong for fintech, SaaS startup, and the citizenship here, it's a lot more simple than the UK skilled worker or Dutch highly skilled migrant. And they're good but overlooked countries to relocate as well. So those are the countries that nobody pay much attention. So there's also Poland in Krakow, Warsaw, and this country is good. Like if you have a salary range of 35k euros or 60k euros, you can apply for the visa. And you have companies such as Oracle, Red Hat, you have banks, and you can get citizenship in 5 years. There's also Spain. So Spain, you're gonna get a salary between 35k to 65k euros, and you can possibly get digital nomad visa, and you can get the citizenship permanent residency after 5 years. There is Portugal on Lisbon or Porto. You can get the salary range of 30k to 55k euros a year, and so Portugal is popular for digital nomad visa. There's also Estonia, and the salary is similar, it's 30k to 55k. You can get the EU blue card, and the permanent residency you get after 5 years. You also have UAE, Dubai. It has huge demand for IT in finance. You have the salary range of 60k to 120k tax-free, which is great. And you have this golden visa, like if you have 10 years for certain skill sets, no income tax, but obviously you're gonna pay a lot for everything there. So I heard that a rent for an apartment of 1 room, you would pay $5,000 or something like that. So even though you earn a lot and you don't pay income taxes, you would pay a lot on just to live. There is also Singapore. The salary range is something around 45k euros a year or to 95k euros a year. And English is the official language, and it's a great place. Singapore, I've been there already, and it's a great place to live in, and yeah, totally worth it. So there are some ways to work internationally, right? So you can relocate, like I briefly explored here some of the visas and the ways you can go to other countries. Obviously, I wasn't able to go very deep into it because if I go very deep into one country, it's just one presentation. So my goal here is just to show you the ways so that you choose by yourself and you say, okay, I want to go to Ireland. Like if you choose to go to Ireland, then Like you decide what is the best way you can do it. Like if it's the same way I did, like coming here as a student and then getting the job in a critical skills job, then do it. Or if you want to do this move from a multinational company, it's also a way, right? But you need to decide, right? Like I wouldn't, if I am to tell you all the details from every country, like it would be like, I don't know, 10 lives. Yeah, I don't want that. I want to, make this life more strategic to you so that you can, take action in your career more quickly, right? So yeah, there is like you can relocate to other countries or you can get remote jobs abroad. And what you can do, you can, apply for companies with remote first culture. And also make sure that you build a strong LinkedIn profile. And by the way, I can help you to create a very strong LinkedIn profile to contribute with open source in the Challenger Developer Mentorship. And you can also get freelance platforms. Like you can get a freelance job and you can use we work remotely, you can use Top Total. And for networking, like I said, like going to tech conferences, contributing to open source, contributing to the Java community will help you a lot to get a job abroad. Relocation considerations. So sometimes you're going to need to learn the language, which is the case of Germany and the Netherlands. You're going to have to learn German or Dutch. And you need to see the cost of living. Some countries you're going to spend a lot of money. Like Germany is an expensive country. Ireland is also an expensive country. So you need to calculate everything, right? Because it's going to change a lot. You need to research about the culture, if they are a culture that are receptive of immigrants. Sometimes they are not very receptive. So you need to do some research on that. Salary expectations. So if you want to work for the US, it's something around 92K to 160K dollars a year. It's usually more. If you work for a big tech, and if you are in a high position, you can potentially earn $500,000 a year or more. In Germany, and this is just like a rough estimation, right? Obviously, it's not very accurate, but it's just to give you an idea. So in Germany, it's 55K to 95K euros a year. In the Netherlands, it's 50K to 85K euros a year. In the UK, it's around 50K to 90K pounds a year. In Canada, 80K to 120K Canadian dollars. In Australia, it's around 100K to 150K Australian dollars. In Ireland, I would say it's a bit more, but let's say that it's roughly 55K to 120K euros a year. And remote first options, it's around 40K to 120K dollars a year. And for knowledge base skill set, so what is the knowledge you need? So basically you need to know Java 11 or Java 21. You need to know the main Java features. You need to know streams, concurrency, OOP, generics, and so on. Spring Boot, Hibernate, Maven, microservices. You need to know cloud platforms such as AWS, GCP, and Azure. CI/CD pipelines, security best practices, distributed system concepts, agile practices. Needs to be good on communication. Doesn't mean that you need to be like a specialist in communicating. Just means that you need to communicate concisely and you need to know how to deal with different cultures and needs to be good on interviews for algorithms and system design. And you can also do mock interviews in the Challenger Developer Mentorship if you want. Regarding career strategies, so basically tailor your CV for international employers, use global English, highlight impact-driven achievements. So for example, if you improved scalability in your company, saying that, you improved scalability by, I don't know, 20% or whatever. But if you did a change on your cloud provider that saved money, tell that on your LinkedIn. And if you create blogs, open source contributions, emphasize that on your LinkedIn profile as well. And always keep learning, right? So Do continuous learning. If you have Java certifications or cloud certifications, that definitely helps. And for remote first companies, so let's see here. So it's great to get a remote job because you don't need to leave your job, obviously. You don't need to leave your country. So there are many companies that are friendly for remote first, like GitLab, WordPress, Canonical, TopTotal, Upwork, Remote OK. There is also Meta, Dropbox. So many companies here that you can apply for remote jobs. And if you work for a remote job, you can also apply for nomad visas. And you can get those, like I said, in Portugal, Spain, Estonia, Greece, or Croatia. You need to prove that you earn at least 2K to 3K dollars or euros a month. And, the average salary. So obviously it will depend on the country you live. So usually it's gonna be around 40 to 60K dollars a year. And the strategy for intermediate developers is, you can apply for those famous companies, or you can do the traditional way, which is just go to LinkedIn, just filter a location to remote and start searching, apply for jobs and see how it goes. Or you can go to work remote, and it's a 100% remote first for companies. Remote OK. And there is this arc point dev, top total. And so if you're looking for corporate or fintech roles, you can go to LinkedIn. Or if you want to work for a startup with worldwide access, we work remotely is great, or remote OK. And that's it. Like, I highly recommend you to, create to do contributions with open source, or create articles, create anything that will make you stand out. Because remember, when you share your knowledge, you solidify your knowledge, right? You're going to be really good at this thing that you want to become a specialist. And you also help other developers by doing that, right? So it's a win-win. You build a very strong career portfolio, and you also help others. Right. Okay, challengers. So that's pretty much it about this week in life. So today we talked about the international opportunities. So we talked about some countries and how to get the visa. We also discussed about remote opportunities. So there are many ways to get international jobs, and you have to see what works for you and what is the most suitable. What do you want exactly? If you want a specific country, start researching about how to get the visa specifically to this country. I just gave you a general view here so that you can decide for yourself what is the best option, if it's either to relocate or to get a job remote. So it depends on your context, it depends on what you want. Okay? So that's pretty much it, Challenger. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you on the next Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time. You can participate here. Okay? So thank you so much. Cheers.